everybody. Peter Harris here. Welcome to another edition of 10 Questions with the Musical Mind. I'd like to cover our recent trip to Nashville, Tennessee for the second annual Rockin' Pod Expo. We had a lot of fun there. Met a lot of great people. There's over 25 different podcasts doing live broadcasts from the exposition. And as well as a lot of musicians. We got to touch base with some people I've already spoken to, namely Anthony Corder of Tora Tora. Him and the rest of the boys were there. I spoke with Ultra producer Michael Wagner. Got to speak a little bit about his recording techniques. And what I'd like to touch on this time around is our interview with Ron Keel, the metal cowboy himself. We sat down and talked about everything from his early days in Steeler to his philosophies, to how he's blended his image from his career in heavy metal up through his country days in Iron Horse, and how he's matched his styles together for his new persona as the metal cowboy and his new venture with EMP Records, who have released Metal Cowboy, remastered, revised set list, all that kind of thing. So I think you'll like the interview. He's a great guy, and hopefully maybe next year we'll see you at the third annual Rockin' Pod Expo. Guys, we're here today with the legendary Ron Keel. Ron, thanks so much for sitting down with us a minute.
Thank you, Peter. How do you get that term legendary? I mean, that's pretty cool. I appreciate that. I guess if you live long enough and keep working hard enough and long enough, I get tagged with that. It still kind of blows my mind when people say that, but I appreciate it.
You know, I mean, since the first Steeler album, I mean, I've been aware of you and you know, seen and followed your career, so that's a long time. You're legendary now.
35 years since that Steeler album came out, and it's been one hell of a ride.
Oh, I bet. So I want to ask you, first off, you're on EMP Records. Of course, you're last year Metal Cowboy, and you've got the revised issue now with some remastering and some what all is on the new package.
The new package, Metal Cowboy Reloaded, is the 2014 solo album, remixed, all remixed, remastered, and some bonus tracks as well. Really cool to put out a record, which is very dear to my heart. That album is me to the core, but to have 4 years to chew on it, so to speak, and then the opportunity to go back and I didn't re-record anything, but fix stuff that wasn't mixed properly, and the album sequence itself. So many times these days, that first track has got to be, and after listening to the record for 4 years, I realized that my favorite track on the album is My Bad, which really encapsulates what the Metal Cowboy is all about. It's metal and it's cowboy. I love the lyrics and the story it tells, and everything about that song. Really, if I had one song to pick, that would be track one, and so I was able to rearrange the sequence for that. And I don't even know how that re-release came about. Tom Hazard from EMP label group, he and I are both very intense. We get on the phone and it's like a hurricane meets a tornado, and by the end of the conversation you don't know how you got to where you are, but at some point during one of those phone conversations we decided we'd re-release that on EMP and kind of be the testing ground, or at least the primer, to prime the carburetor, so to speak, for the new Ron Keel Band album, Fight Like a Band, coming out in January on EMP.
That's what I'm looking forward to. That was another question by. So how you liking on EMP so far? You and I discussed earlier, they're one of the real doing the legwork as far as keeping rock and metal alive, and are you enjoying the process so far?
I love it. You know, and there's a lot of different ways, well, only really a couple of different ways these days for guys like me to release albums. Sure. You could do it on your own, which I did originally with Metal Cowboy on my own label, and financially it was a great move because the record recouped before I sent the first CD out. I'd already made my money back and then some. So I financed the project myself, but I can't work a record like EMP can with the radio promotion, the international network of distribution that they have in place. I had gotten closer and closer to David Ellefson from Megadeth the last few years. Did a show with him in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where we got to hang for a couple of days. We played some tunes, we jammed on stage together, and we talked, and I was seeing his business model with Dollskin, that Mark Slaughter record that came out, this fantastic release. He was releasing great product, and he was doing it right. And I'd much rather leave that to the professionals. That's my job is creating and writing and being Ron Keel, and let the engineers engineer, the producers produce, the label, let them work the record. I still am old school. I'll go into the studio and record an album with a producer and an engineer, as opposed to doing it on my computer at home. Old school, I guess, is the best way to say it. but that's their expertise. That's what these guys are great at.
And talk about who's going to be a better advocate for the musician than Dave Ellison. I mean,
absolutely.
He's not a suit.
And my career started by being taken under the wing of a legendary bass player, Gene Simmons.
Right.
So what better way to take it to the next level at this stage of the game with another legendary bass player, David Ellison.
Full circle, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. I didn't think of it that way. That's perfect. And I was going to ask you, but you've answered my question a little bit. I kind of feel like the Metal Cowboy album and the persona is really the perfect synthesis of your style in the years. You know, from the metal and the right to rock and all that to your country stuff. It just seems like that fits him. That's just authentic.
It's home. It's a house that I built for myself that I'm very comfortable in. I loved the metal, and I'm a huge metal fan. Still to this day, people don't understand how you can do both. I don't understand why you can't eat steak and salad.
I mean, they're both good music, right?
Yeah, I grew up in a house where I played jazz, blues, country music, and rock and roll. Radio, listening in the 70s, you heard the Eagles and Black Sabbath on the same radio station.
Right.
So to me, there was really no difference. It was different flavors of the same thing, and it's all music.
Right.
So I grew up without that prejudice.
Right.
Just a love for music. It is a cultural thing. I'm not a rap guy. I don't get that.
Right.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
It's also an age thing too. Maybe if it hit you when you were 14, who knows? But
maybe.
Right. But
I love melody. I love melody and stories, and so that combination of the electricity, the energy, the excitement of rock and metal, coupled with the song sensibilities of country music, where you can tell a story, you can write about life, love, heartache, real stuff, as opposed to bragging about how many women you claim to have been with last night, which was basically every lyric we wrote in the 80s.
Right.
It was all about the party and the promiscuity and the stuff that doesn't last. Songs about life will last and stand the test of time.
That's a perfect answer. And I'm going to ask you, you've stayed so focused on your career all these years, ups and downs. Do you think your drive and ambition, is that an innate quality you're born with? Do you think somebody can attain that if they're not naturally so driven? Because there's a lot of people who wash out of the business, not just this business, anything, any career path. Do you think you were born with that, or is it something you just hammered into yourself? I've got to keep going, I've got to...
Good question. And that drive, it does come from within. Mm-hmm. It's a character trait. It's in your DNA. Plus the fear of, if I stop or if I slow down, like a shark, man, they stop swimming, they'll die.
Right.
I know that to stay on top of my game, I've got to keep playing the game. And you're not going to hit one out of the park if you're not swinging.
Right.
So I've always just kept swinging. I step up to the plate. I use the sports analogies a lot, both in life, business, music, because the cool thing about life is that there's no strikeouts. You just keep swinging.
Right.
In baseball, 3 strikes, you're out.
Right.
In this business, man, you can just keep swinging, and you might hit one out of the park. And I've done it a few times where even at this stage of the game, these great opportunities still present themselves because I am active, because I am so busy and so driven to succeed. Mm-hmm. And succeed is the word, because you have to have that goal, even if it's unrealistic.
Right.
You say you can do anything you put your mind to. Well, no, you can't.
Right.
You can't be a doctor if you can't be a lawyer. But that belief that I can still succeed at this stage of the game keeps me going, and you quantify that success in different ways, whether it's financially, creatively, or just how you feel. It has kept me young, it's kept me healthy, and it's given me, I cannot afford to sit back and stagnate. I've got to keep singing, and that's why I think my voice especially has held up over the years, because I never stop singing. I just don't stop. So,
and that's another thing that's afflicted a lot of people, but then some people keep it forever, but that's a good point. It could be financial success, or it could be, man, that hook, that song I just wrote, it's just, that's what I'm thinking.
At this point, it's touching somebody's life, somebody that, whether it's creating something that means something to a fan or a listener, or having a positive effect on one person or one life, or meaning something to them. I know, and I love this phrase, I use it often, I'll use it in this interview. The fact that I sold 3 million records means that billions of people don't like what I do or don't want it.
That's great.
So to me, that keeps it in perspective.
Right.
I'm not going to please everybody. I'm just going to please myself. I like to listen to my own music.
Right.
My CD player in my truck is full of all my stuff because I really enjoy listening to what I do. I can't count on everybody else to like it or enjoy it. If they don't like it, if it's not their cup of tea, that's cool. I really like it. Not the old stuff, but not the Steeler album. The stuff that I'm doing now, the Keel Streets of Rock and Roll album, the Metal Cowboy record, the new stuff, the Black Sabbath tribute. Now, I love listening to my music and playing it for my friends. And I've got some friends here in Nashville that are with me. These guys have been with me for decades. These guys are my tight inner circle, like the Ron Keel Mafia, so to speak. And they are all about the old stuff, the Steeler and Right to Rock and what I did back in the day. And that guy, they accept what I'm doing now or what I've done the last 20 years, but I'm still that guy.
Sure,
to them.
You're wrong.
And so on this trip to Nashville, I've gotten to play my new album for my old friends.
Perfect.
And I didn't really think, they're not going to want to hear this. They still want me to be that guy. And I think, I sprung it on them just because I wanted to hear it and I wanted to share it with my friends. And their reaction was absolutely over the top, and they were really, really excited about the new music, which I didn't expect. Like I said, they still want me to be the lead singer in Steeler. So to have those guys be this excited about my new music really meant a lot to me. So that, to me, that's one way that I quantify success. If the people I love and the people that enjoy my work can listen to it and get something out of it, whether it's my radio show or the new album or the latest concert that I've done, that's a success. If I can deliver the goods and still sing well, perform well, and write a good song and put on a good show, then that's what it's all about.
That's awesome. Another quick question. What do you remember as igniting your love of music when you were young?
The Beatles on Ed Sullivan. I mean, you get that from a lot of guys in my generation.
Absolutely.
However, I was only 2 years old in February of 1964 when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. My sister was 10 years older than I, and she made me watch it. I don't know why. We didn't even have any furniture. The TV was on the floor. Black and white TV on the floor in Atlanta, Georgia. And I watched the Beatles, and immediately it tripped my trigger, and I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sing rock and roll on TV. So it was a blessing. At such an early age, I was already just infected with that musical addiction. So I never really had a choice. I never really, maybe I'll be a pilot, maybe I'll be a fireman, maybe, most kids, I was jumping up and down on the bed with a hairbrush, singing Creedence and the Monkees and all that 60s Motown and all that. By the time I was 9, 10 years old, I was in bands. By the time I was 14, I was on the road.
I'm so glad that I'm from Atlanta too. But actually for about 8 years I grew up in Baltimore. And one thing I love is I'm a hard rock and metal guy all the way through, some jazz and stuff, but progressive. But I love that when I was a kid in kindergarten, first, second grade in the 70s in Baltimore, it was the Jackson 5. It was, but so I was at least exposed to that kind of stuff, and so I love all that stuff. A good song's a good song.
It's songs and harmony, the way they built those things around their vocal harmonies, and you can learn a lot from that stuff. And I just kind of sucked it all in. I was a sponge, and I soaked up all those styles of music. And of course, when you start playing in the school band, which is the first chance to play an instrument, I'm in school, I'm in 4th grade. Oh, hell yes, I'm going to play the drums. So you start banging on drums, and you learn the trumpet and the trombone, you learn to read sheet music, and you learn the theory behind it, and speaking that musical language has been so beneficial to me.
I don't think the trombone would have taken you as far.
I did not play the trombone. My music teacher, who is still like a second father to me, he's an elderly man now, but we've known each other for, almost 50 years. He auditioned me and said, okay, hold out your arms. And I did this. Oh, you're going to be a great trombone player. I said, no, hell no. It's not going to happen. I don't play drums. No, everybody wants to play drums. You're going to be a trombone player. He'd look at the people's lips or teeth and say, oh, you'll be a great saxophone.
Strong bottom lip for the brain.
No, I against his wishes, I played drums, and we're still best of friends. He's like a second father to me.
Can I ask you a random history question?
Absolutely.
Just for my personal curiosity. Speaking of Steeler, of course, your band Steeler, for those of you who don't know, was Yngwie Malmsteen's first appearance in the States.
That's correct.
I've always wondered, was that an organic thing, him joining, or was that the record label going, Ron, here's the new hot gun in town.
No, he was not the hot gun in town. I chose him from a a pile of cassette tapes.
Okay,
Mike,
that's what I was wondering. Mike Varney, right?
Mike Varney had every guitar player in the world had sent him a demo at that point.
Right. Yeah, he was completely unknown.
I went to Mike Varney's house on New Year's Day in 1983.
Okay.
And we sat there and just popped in cassettes of these guitar players, all these hot shots that had sent him demos. I heard Yngwie and thought that that's something different. This is something special.
Right.
This guy is doing something that nobody else has done that I haven't heard that was very special. So I called him and I made the call. Mike would have signed me to a deal. Any one of those guitar players that I chose.
Sure.
I could have picked any one, and Mike would have signed us to the deal. I chose Yngwie. We called him on the phone, and the rest is history.
See, I didn't know that part of it. That's great. That's great. That's kind of interesting history. I love to learn firsthand. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, we had to have somebody that competed with the guitarists Jakey Lee and George Lynch and all those guys in the LA Hollywood scene in the early 80s. They were just tearing it up. I had to have somebody of that caliber.
There was such an explosion after '78.
Yeah,
was just,
absolutely.
You couldn't be
Edward changed the world.
You couldn't be Robbie Krieger and make it in the
That's
Sunset
right.
Strip.
That's right.
After February '78.
Yeah, with Eddie and then Randy Rhoads.
Right.
They set the bar pretty high, and I had to have somebody of that caliber, and Yngwie was the guy.
Hey Ron, it's been an absolute pleasure.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
so much
Thank
for reaching
you.
out. Guys, the Metal Cowboy, Ron Keel.